So my personal experience, I am a survivor of psychiatric institutionalization. It happened to me 45 years ago when I was 18 years old, so I'm 63 years old now. And it is an experience that was such an atrocity in my life that it has affected me still all these years, even though that was a one-time only occurrence in my life, and it was only for a period of 6 weeks. I have stayed away from psychiatry since that time. And so essentially, what I've been very fortunate to be able to do in my life since that time has been to become a lawyer and do human rights work in this area, to work on the drafting of the convention and contribute in many ways to the development of the normative framework that requires the abolition of forced psychiatry, and now with the deinstitutionalization guidelines also gives us a more positive vision of what kind of world we want to look forward to, what kind of communities we want to create to include everyone in all their diversity, including the kind of diversity that we might label as madness, neurodivergence, psychosocial disability, and that we don't have to understand in terms of psychiatric diagnosis, mental disorder, mental health condition. So I want to say for myself why I really reject psychiatric terminology and concepts and practices, and including any kind of mental health diagnosis and mental health approach to experiences of distress and our diversity of consciousness. So at the time when I was locked up, I was going through a life crisis. I was 18 years old, the cusp of adulthood, and I had had some traumatic issues happen in my childhood. And it was a kind of trauma that wasn't really anything that you could put your finger on to name in a very concrete way. And for that reason, I had not being able to name something can make you feel like you're crazy, in the ordinary terminology. And, we tend to want easy solutions. We tend to want to blame ourselves, blame the other person, have some neat little package to say, this is what happened to me. And that just wasn't the case for me. So it was a response of other people to what I was going through, to the distress that I was experiencing and showing, to the needs I was expressing, really for just some kind of solidarity and empathy and refuge. That my family around me were pretty much scared. And at that time in the 1970s, it was easy to reach. It wasn't easy, actually. It was actually considered a kind of new thinking to reach for that medical model and think, okay, what she really needs is psychiatry, and she obviously can't be trusted to make decisions for herself, so we're going to do this against her will. So after I worked on the convention and we got to the normative framework enough to the point where you have not only the convention itself, but the guidelines on Article 14 and General Comment Number 1 on Article 12, which establish conclusively that forced treatment and any kind of involuntary commitment are contrary to this convention, which is ratified by the overwhelming majority of UN member states. And after that, when I was turning to a kind of more positive vision, what would have actually made sense for me at that time? What is it that I still turn to in my life today if I'm struggling to understand something, whether it's past trauma or something that's very hard, that causes me grief and anger in the present? And what I actually found was what I would have been looking for. I didn't want somebody to take over and tell me what was going on inside of me. I wanted love and understanding. I wanted something interactive. I wanted somebody who could see that I was struggling and make a space for me to talk about it, to somehow try to express, but also just to connect in a human way, to recognize that what I was going through, and even some ways that I was manifesting how I felt that might have looked odd or scary to some people, that it didn't really make me scary. It didn't make me somebody who deserved to be segregated from the world for any period of time, or to be frankly tortured with psychiatric drugs, because that is, I was forced to take the drug Haldol. I put it in my own mouth under coercion because I knew what they could do to me if I didn't put it in my own mouth. And I want to emphasize that because sometimes people think, oh, it wasn't really forced because I took it, under that kind of threat. For me, it was equivalent to having a knife or gun to my throat, that the fact that I participated was almost a greater torture because it did something to my sense of self that was a kind of psychological torture. So there's a lot of resources. I see that I'm at really the end of my time that I've been given of 10 minutes. I want to encourage you to go to my various websites that I will give Pranami to share with you, and really to be in touch with me if you are interested in asking questions or connecting on any of this. I wish you a great event and look forward to connecting with any of you at any time.